Hello, my name's Solon, and we're going to be talking about emergency response, or what to do when an emergency happens. First, you need to realize you matter. You really matter in an emergency. When an emergency occurs, the reaction of a few minutes actually could be a big deal. Someone can literally live or die based on how fast everything starts happening. When does the ambulance get there? When does the fire department get there? All that kind of thing. You might be the key to start all of this resources coming so that the response is as good as it can possibly be and the damage is as little as it can possibly be. The first step for an emergency response is recognition. What's going on? You just heard or saw something. What was it? Should you look more? Should you run away? You know, should you ignore it? A lot of times we get tone deaf to the noises around us, like a car alarm in a parking lot. When they first came out, people would all look. Nowadays, not everyone goes and looks. Uh, do you hear screams? Is it a kid's scream? Is it a laugh? Mechanical noises like something breaking, screeching tires, maybe it's a car accident. Do you hear an animal barking or doing other noises? Gunshots, power outages where you see that there's something wrong here. Is there a fire? Do you smell smoke? Um, should you look more or should you flee, or is it something that's just around you and it's part of the normal day? Recognizing what is an actual event that needs help right now is one of the harder parts of an emergency response. Now, the first thing to do when you think there's something wrong is to evaluate the scene. Don't run in. Reel in your adrenaline. A lot of people really want to become a hero and run to see what's wrong. If there is a real emergency, you could get hurt. It might not be one medical emergency. This could be something much worse, like a dog attack. Uh, Gunshots mean bullets are moving. If you heard gunshots, do you really want to run to that? That really could get you hurt. Someone lying on the ground, and is there a reason for that? Uh, One of the most tragic stories that is repeatedly told because it keeps happening is someone responding to someone unconscious on the ground someplace. Let's say in a sewer or in a pit that holds, refuse or effluent or manure. Um, and what can happen in those kind of environments is that oxygen can be displaced and toxic gases can build up, and there isn't good air to breathe. So someone walks down into this space and they fall over unconscious because there's no good air to breathe. So they can't breathe and they fall over and they're dying because there's no air. So this isn't really visible. And so someone comes up, often a family member or a coworker, and they see their friend or their family member lying on the ground right over there, and they run to help them. And they take a couple of breaths and they're on the ground too. And this step can repeat multiple times with multiple people dying. So running straight in isn't necessarily a great idea. An animal attacking someone won't suddenly be nice to you because you're a nice person and you try to treat animals well. You really need to evaluate the scene. Is it safe? Can I actually go help? Or am I just going to be in the way and become a casualty that needs to be rescued, which is what we don't want. If the area appears safe, then you can look further. What happened? Try and build a story of what you think just happened. How close can I get to take a look and really evaluate what's going on before I should stop? Uh, with a fire, you might get a certain distance in, but you feel like it's unsafe to get much closer. Uh, try as you build up the story of what you think happened. How many people are involved? What kind of help is needed? Do the people need help? What kind of help? Um, is law enforcement the right answer? Is the fire department the right answer? Is an ambulance the right answer? Is an on-site team, like at a store or a site, the right answer? Could be spill response, and you need to contact the on-site team who has the spill response equipment to address the spill on their own property. Now, the first thing you do, the first thing, the very first second there's an emergency, is call for help. Um, A lot of times we want to run in and start helping. And then when we're in, we go, gosh, I wish I had some help. You need to call for help first. Um, if there's a fire and you don't call for help first, you run in to fight the fire and you're wrong. The fire keeps growing and you can't stop it. We lost how much time for people evacuating the building or people coming to help you fight that fire as you found out that it was a bigger fire than you realized. We can't lose that initial time. There's tons of stuff also that needs to be done in every emergency. Um, and you really can't do it all by yourself. So what I want you to do is yell out for help. Yell help. Literally yell it as loud as you can, or yell fire as loud as you can. Um, we want to attract every ear in the surrounding area. Yell it 3 times in a row. If you only yell help once or fire once, sometimes people don't hear you or they mishear you. They may think they didn't hear what they really heard. If you yell it 3 times in a row, there's much less chance for someone to be confused about what they just heard and actually come to help you. Also, activate any local alarms. A lot of buildings have fire alarm pull down stations or buttons. Maybe there's a radio system people carry as they are on a given site. So activate any local alarms that are on a specific site to get the resources that are already developed to help you in this emergency coming to you. Now, what needs to be done? It really depends on an emergency. Um, Activating an emergency alarm, if there's one present. How about calling 911? That's most likely going to happen for some types of emergencies, but not necessarily for others. How about call another number? Is there an on-site number you're working and they say, if, in case of this type of emergency, call this number here? Um, if you're on a specific site, they might have dial a certain number to get out of our internal phone system to dial 911. So is it, dial pound then 911 to get outside my local internal phone line system? Um, you might want someone to notify on-site staff, like go tell this person's supervisor they're hurt and they need help. Uh, that way the supervisor can start doing the management stuff, not the medical stuff, but the management stuff that's going to get that employee, HR support, so that, they're to the hospital and their bills are getting paid and all that other kind of stuff. Maybe there's an on-site response team for a specific type of emergency that you just saw. Maybe another employee handles this kind of thing, like an on-site nurse, and someone's going to run to the on-site nurse, or staff security might need to be notified. How about having someone get the first aid kit on a site, or getting an AED for a site? Go grab the fire extinguisher. Go grab the spill response kit. There's lots of things that you might need to address an emergency. How about turning off equipment? Like it's unsafe to enter this area because that thing's broken and it's going to hurt more people. We need to get that turned off. Or is there a car that's part of a car accident and it's still on? Maybe we need to turn that off before we try and do anything else. Have someone clear the area of people who are not assisting with the response. We don't need people gathering and crowding an emergency area. They're not helping. They're in the way. How about having someone go guide emergency responders to the area? You're on a park. Someone's had a heart attack. Now the ambulance comes up the main road. They don't know where in the park that injured person is. So having someone go wait by the emergency road, jumping up and down, waving their arms as they see the ambulance come, and then the ambulance sees them, and then you can run them right to the injured person. That's a much faster response time than someone watching the ambulance drive around a parking lot, looking around, trying to see where the injured person is, where they should be. It's a much faster response. How about having someone there waiting to relieve you or support you? If you're giving CPR to someone, you can't do that for a long period of time. So if you have someone there who's going to take over for you, then you can keep that treatment going for a much longer time. Or if it's like spill response, you might just need someone to take over at a certain point because you're getting tired from moving material. You might need support there. How about having someone just waiting for you to think of what you need? Uh, you're doing some emergency response and you realize I need this piece of equipment. I need this help. Having someone just waiting there to go get that item for you because you can no longer extricate yourself from what you're in. You need someone to go get it. Just having someone waiting for you to say, "Oh, go get this for me. I forgot." It could be a huge help. And hopefully, just through these few examples, you can see that you need people there in an emergency response. You can't do all of this. You can't be on the phone calling 911 while giving first aid, while going to get the first aid equipment. There's just too much to be done. So the more help you can get, the better this response is going to be. Now, only after you call for help can you start actually helping out yourself. We're not actually participating in the response until we've notified, the people around us that there's an emergency. And if it's a fire, they're starting to evacuate. If it's a first aid response, they're coming to help, that kind of thing. If you have any training for a given type of emergency, and that's what is in front of you, you can start doing that, fulfilling that role, doing those skills. So if you know first aid, yep, you've called for help and you've got the first aid kit, and now you can start providing first aid. Um, always, 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 I want to say, don't rush. Stay calm. Only move after you've thought it through. Uh, Accidents get worse when we don't think. Then we have another accident, and then we become one of the injured. And now someone has to come rescue us. So we don't want to make anything worse. We don't want to misjudge a situation. Stay calm, think rationally. And it's hard when your heart is beating fast because you want to go help that person. Um, Another big portion or part of this is project calm. When I say stay calm, project calm also. People react based on how you react. And if you appear panicked, if your voice is going crazy, if you're overreacting in speed or pushing really hard when it's not necessary, people will do similar things as you because they see what you're doing and think maybe that's what's needed right now. If you have a first aid patient who's bleeding, and then you start panicking, trying to stop the bleeding, their heart rate is going to go faster because they're reacting to how bad they are based on what they see coming from you. So stay calm. It's one of the best things you can do in an emergency because it slows everyone down, and then everyone can think a little bit more rationally and hopefully come up with a better response. Um, and maybe remember some training they already had and can use that training versus if they're just running a mile a minute in their head, they're not really thinking through all the things they know that could help at this situation. Now, some things to remember. Don't trust an injured person. Really, don't trust them. Due to the injury, they may not feel how bad they are hurt. If you think it's bad, escalate the response. Um, so at work, this could be someone says, I'm fine. And I've had this. One of the worst ones I've ever had was some coworkers called the shop and said, look, this person's hurt. We think they should be looked at. We go out and we find out that this tractor operator had been driving along the parkway doing his work, and a widowmaker, which is a tree limb that's ready to fall, fell as he drove by, either due to wind or due to the vibration of the tractor, who knows. But it fell and it hit him in the head. Now he's bleeding out of his head badly. And what does he do? He turns the tractor around, he drives it back to his truck and trailer, and his plan is to drive that tractor back onto the trailer, tie it down, drive back to the shop, and then get first aid. That's someone who's not thinking rationally. If you're bleeding out of your head, you're not going for a driver's test. You asked your coworkers who saw you for help. So luckily they called us and we came and we helped. So that's at work. If you're in a public space and you see someone that's not well, um, you can't just, call your supervisor and say something, because there is no supervisor that will handle this. You could notify on-site staff if it's in a business location and let them know that there's someone you think needs help. If it's in a public situation, like in a park or something, you could call 911 and just say, hey, there's someone who's distributing or displaying these kind of symptoms. Uh, it doesn't look right. They say they're fine, but I don't think they're fine. And then they can send someone out to take a look and hopefully, provide them treatment. Um, Also, as you're providing response, keep alert to changing scene. Uh, a safe area can really become dangerous. So, the fire was over there, but the fire starts spreading. Um, the dog was, you thought, contained. Someone had it pinned down, and now it's loose. Um, you really need to keep paying attention, because if you don't, if you tunnel vision in on just what you're doing, um, you can become a casualty in that emergency. So you really need to pay attention and keep your wits about you. Don't become a casualty. All right. If you've had a real emergency, the press may show up. They do monitor the police lines, the 911 response. They monitor that kind of stuff. So don't be surprised if a camera van shows up and people start taking videos of you and everything else. Now remember, they are not there to help. They're not going to be giving anyone first aid. Um, they're there to collect statements to put on television and other news sources. So um, that's their purpose. Now, if you get approached with someone after you just responded to someone dying in a first aid response, and they shove a camera in your face, do you think you're ready to give the best statement? I wouldn't be. I always defer that kind of thing to professionals. Is there a management team on site? Is there a fire department leader or police leader that I can defer that to and say, no, I'm not the one to talk to them. Remember, if you choose to be interviewed, that video is going to live on forever. It's never going away. It's going to be online. And, if you say something you regret, it's always going to be there. One other thing is, if you get interviewed and you just say what happened, your friend Jerry just, died in this horrible accident. That could be going on the afternoon news. Their family watching that afternoon news, that could be how they hear about the death of a loved one. And I'm not really sure that's the right way for that to happen. There's not a good way for it to happen, I admit. But, a professional calling them would probably be better than them finding out on the news. So that's just a thought to consider, is the press may become involved. Now, in conclusion, for everything you do, think it through. And I mean everything ever in your life. If you think it through, the odds of you getting hurt or others getting hurt are greatly reduced, because you're going to have a plan. The trick to an emergency response is correctly identifying the problems, getting the needed assistance, and then doing what you can and helping that situation. Remember our motto: everyone goes home every day. That's our goal. Best of luck to you.